There are moments in life when the thin line between existence and oblivion becomes terrifyingly clear. When the world you once took for granted transforms into a brutal, unforgiving wilderness, and every breath is a desperate prayer. For Alex, a young solo traveler exploring the remote corners of the globe, that moment arrived with brutal, unforgiving force. What began as an exhilarating adventure, a personal quest for freedom, quickly morphed into a desperate, solitary battle against the very elements, a fight for survival against overwhelming odds, where every decision could mean the difference. Between life and death, he was far from civilization, cut off from any help, stripped of all comfort, facing challenges that seemed insurmountable. His body pushed to its absolute breaking point, his mind tormented by fear and the chilling whisper of despair. People often imagine survival as a dramatic, heroic tale filled with grand gestures. But the truth is far grimmer. It's a raw, agonizing grind, a desperate clinging to life when every fiber of your being screams to surrender. He was utterly alone, convinced that his journey had reached its final, desperate chapter, and that his hope for survival was rapidly extinguishing itself. But what if, even when faced with absolute desolation, the human spirit possesses an indomitable will to fight? What if true strength isn't about physical prowess, but about an unyielding spirit that refuses to surrender, even when every logical reason to live has vanished? This is the extraordinary, raw, and utterly triumphant story of Alex. It's a testament to the quiet suffering many endure, the profound courage it takes to face nature's wrath alone, and the remarkable journey of how one soul, stripped of everything, waged and ultimately won his fight for survival. Prepare to be incredibly inspired, because this is a heartfelt chronicle about the unyielding power of resilience and fierce determination. Alex had always been a restless spirit. The predictable rhythm of city life, the endless meetings, the constant digital hum, it all felt suffocating. He craved the wild, the untamed, the raw honesty of nature. After years of saving every penny from his mundane desk job, he finally decided to break free. He sold most of his possessions, packed a single backpack, and embarked on a solo journey across South America. His dream was to hike the remote, seldom trekked paths of Patagonia, to test his limits, to find a sense of true freedom and self-reliance far from the clamor of civilization. He spent months traveling, his spirit soaring. With every new landscape, every challenging trek, he navigated dense jungles, scaled high peaks, and forged rivers, his body growing leaner, stronger, his mind sharper, more attuned to the rhythms of the earth. He journaled obsessively, documenting the raw beauty he encountered, the profound peace he found in solitude. His social media, usually a vibrant feed of his adventures, also served as a distant lifeline to his family and friends back home. They followed his journey, worried but proud, living vicariously through his daring spirit. He was fulfilling a lifelong dream, proving to himself that he was capable of anything he set his mind to. His final, most ambitious leg of the journey was a solo multi-day trek through a particularly remote and notoriously challenging section of the Andes Mountains. He had meticulously planned his route, studied maps, packed essential supplies, and informed a local ranger of his intended path and estimated return date. He was confident in his skills, in his preparation, and in his ability to handle whatever nature threw at him. He craved the solitude, the ultimate test of self-reliance. He set off with a light heart, feeling utterly free, convinced that nothing could stand in his way. The first few days were exhilarating. The air was crisp, the views breathtaking. He navigated steep ascents and treacherous descents, his body responding with practiced ease. He felt a profound connection to the raw, untamed wilderness, a sense of peace he rarely found in the modern world. He captured stunning photographs, each one a testament to the majestic beauty surrounding him. He was truly alive, living out his dream, far from the pressures and expectations of society. Then, on the fourth day, the weather turned, unexpectedly, rapidly. A fierce, unseasonal blizzard swept in from the south, turning the majestic peaks into a swirling vortex of white. The temperature plummeted. Visibility dropped to near zero. What had been a challenging but navigable path instantly transformed into a treacherous, deadly trap. The wind howled like a banshee, tearing at his clothes, whipping snow into his face. He struggled to stay upright, fighting against the sudden, overwhelming force of the storm. He knew with a chilling certainty that he was in profound danger. Alex immediately tried to find shelter, a cave, an overhang, anything to escape the biting wind and relentless snow. But the blizzard was too fierce, too sudden. The terrain, once familiar, became a disorienting, treacherous labyrinth of snowdrifts and hidden crevasses. He stumbled, falling repeatedly, his body growing numb with cold. His carefully packed gear, designed for temperate conditions, offered little protection against the extreme elements. As darkness fell, the situation grew desperate. His hands, numb with cold, struggled to grip his trekking poles. His vision blurred. He knew he had to keep moving, but his body was failing him. Exhaustion, hypothermia, and the first insidious whispers of despair began to set in. He saw a small, rocky overhang, barely large enough for shelter, and crawled into it, shivering uncontrollably. He huddled against the cold rock, trying to start his small emergency stove for warmth, but his fingers were too numb, his movements too clumsy. The matches slipped from his grasp, lost in the swirling snow. He was stranded, alone, in the middle of an unforgiving blizzard. The night was agonizing. He shivered uncontrollably, his muscles seizing up. He fought against the encroaching numbness, constantly rubbing his hands and feet, trying to maintain circulation. He forced himself to stay awake, knowing that sleep could mean permanent hypothermia, could mean death. His mind raced, replaying every step he took, every choice he made. He thought of his family, his friends, the life he had so carelessly left behind. He felt immense regret, a crushing guilt that he had put himself in this impossible situation. He was just a small, fragile human, utterly at the mercy of nature's wrath. By morning, the blizzard had not relented. If anything, it had intensified. Alex was weak, disoriented, his throat raw from coughing. He knew he couldn't stay in the makeshift shelter. He had to keep moving, had to find a way out, even if the odds were astronomically stacked against him. He checked his supplies. His water bottle was frozen solid. His food rations, meager to begin with, seemed woefully insufficient. His satellite phone, his only link to the outside world, had lost signal hours ago, the brutal cold having drained its battery, or perhaps simply jammed the signal. He was truly cut off, isolated, utterly alone. He forced himself out of the shelter, staggering through the blinding snow. Every step was an act of immense will. He fell repeatedly, picking himself up, pushing through the searing pain in his muscles, the crushing weight of exhaustion. He had lost his bearings. His meticulously planned route was gone, buried under meters of snow. He was walking blind, driven only by a primal instinct to survive. The mountains, once his sanctuary, now felt like a vast, white tomb ready to swallow him whole. He hallucinated, saw familiar faces in the swirling snow, heard voices calling his name. He fought against the urge to give up, to simply lie down and let the cold take him. His body screamed in protest, begging for rest, for surrender. But a tiny, stubborn voice deep within him refused to yield. He remembered his dream of freedom, his quest for self-reliance. He had to fight. He had to survive. He was in the fight of his life against an enemy that offered no mercy, no compromise. This was his true test. And he was utterly alone. The sun, if it could be called that through the thick swirling snow, offered no warmth. Alex stumbled onward, his progress agonizingly slow. Every step was a monumental effort, a desperate battle against a body that screamed in protest. His muscles ached with a deep, bone-weary fatigue. His lungs burned with every shallow breath of the freezing air. His vision, already blurred by exhaustion and the relentless snowfall, began to swim with disorienting patterns. He knew the signs of severe hypothermia, the uncontrollable shivering, the confusion, the overwhelming urge to simply lie down and rest. He fought against it with every fiber of his being, knowing that to rest was to surrender. He had lost his gloves somewhere in the blizzard's fury. His bare hands were raw, chapped, already showing the chilling white of frostbite. He stuffed them under his armpits, desperate for warmth, but the numbness persisted, creeping higher, threatening to steal his dexterity entirely. His backpack, once a source of comfort and survival, now felt like a lead weight, each ounce a cruel burden on his weakened frame. He considered shedding some weight, but instinct told him to hold on to every last piece of gear. It might be all he had left. The terrain itself became his enemy. What should have been a gentle slope turned into a treacherous ice sheet, each step a gamble between stability and a painful fall. He slipped, falling heavily onto his injured knee, a searing pain tearing through him. He lay there for a moment, gasping, the snow biting at his exposed skin, tears of frustration mingling with the icy snowflakes. The thought of staying down, of letting the cold embrace him, was powerfully tempting. It offered a perverse kind of peace, an end to the relentless agony. But then, a flicker of a memory, his family's faces, their worried smiles, pierced through the haze. He wouldn't give up. Not yet. Not like this. He dragged himself to his feet, his body screaming in protest. He continued his agonizing shuffle, his mind a blurry kaleidoscope of past memories and present torment. He tried to think, to strategize, but the cold had dulled his mental clarity. His compass was useless in the whiteout. His map was a soggy, frozen mess. He was navigating by sheer instinct, by an almost animalistic will to survive. He shouted, his voice hoarse, hoping for an echo, a response, anything to signal another human presence. Only the howling wind answered, mocking his solitude. He was utterly alone. The silence, broken only by the storm's fury and his own ragged breathing, was deafening dot as the second day of the blizzard wore on. The physical pain became a dull roar, background noise to the true battle raging in his mind. Hypothermia and exhaustion began to play cruel tricks. He hallucinated vividly. He saw his family, sitting around a warm fireplace, their laughter echoing through the comfort of his old home. He smelled his mother's cooking, felt the comforting presence of his father. The visions were so real, so tempting, that he almost reached out, almost followed them, forgetting where he was, forgetting the bitter cold that clawed at his skin. Inner demons, the voices of despair, grew louder, more insistent. Give up, Alex. It's pointless. No one's coming. You're just making it worse. You're a fool for even trying. Just close your eyes. It will be over soon. They preyed on his deepest fears, his profound loneliness, his guilt over leaving his family behind. He fought them with every last ounce of his mental strength, verbally lashing out at the invisible whispers, forcing himself to focus on one single desperate goal: survival. He stumbled upon a frozen stream, its surface a treacherous sheet of ice. He knew he needed water, but to break the ice would risk falling in, a certain death sentence in the sub-zero temperatures. He stared at it, his mind clouded, the thirst agonizing. He imagined the cool, clear water, longed for it with every fiber of his being. He considered the risk, a desperate gamble between thirst and immediate hypothermia. His survival instincts, dulled but not extinguished, screamed at him to find another way. He remembered a small, almost forgotten detail from a survival guide. He had once read, "Snow, when melted slowly against your body, can provide hydration without dangerously lowering your core temperature." He was skeptical, desperate. He scooped up handfuls of pristine snow, stuffing it into his pockets, pressing it against his chest, enduring the initial shock of the cold. The process was agonizingly slow, yielding only a few drops of precious, life-sustaining water, but it was enough. It was a victory, however small, against the overwhelming odds. A tiny spark of hope he continued his desperate, blind trek, his perception of time utterly shattered. Days merged into a single agonizing eternity of white. He lost track of how long he had been walking, how far he had come. His body was failing him, his movements erratic, his thoughts fragmented. He knew he was dying, slowly, agonizingly. But still, something deep within him, a primal, unyielding will, refused to surrender. He pictured his mother's worried face, his father's quiet strength, his sister's laughter. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for them, for the chance to see them again, to tell them his story. He was clinging to the very last thread of life, defying the impossible, one painful, desperate breath at a time. The mountain, once a symbol of his freedom, had become a brutal test of his very soul, and he was determined to pass it by the third day. Alex was a ghost. His body was failing, ravaged by hypothermia, dehydration, and exhaustion. His mind, though still clinging to the desperate thread of survival, drifted in and out of consciousness. He knew, with terrifying clarity, that he was running out of time. His internal clock was ticking, counting down to inevitable surrender. He stumbled through the snow, driven by an almost primal instinct, his eyes scanning the featureless white landscape for any sign, any anomaly, any desperate chance. He eventually found himself at the edge of a sheer drop-off, a terrifying crevasse. Hidden beneath a fresh blanket of snow, he nearly fell in. He recoiled, his heart pounding in his chest, the brush with instant death sending a jolt of adrenaline through his system. This shock, this stark reminder of how close he was to the end, oddly sharpened his focus. He couldn't die here. Not like this. He remembered something from his extensive research, a desperate measure for extreme cold. If a signal couldn't get out, perhaps a beacon could be seen. He had a small, bright orange emergency tarp designed for shelter, but he knew it could also serve as a desperate marker. With numb, clumsy fingers, he struggled to untie it from his pack. The wind fought him, whipping the fabric, threatening to tear it from his grasp. His fingers screamed in pain, the frostbite deepening, but he ignored it. This was his last gamble. He found a relatively flat, open expanse of snow, slightly sheltered from the direct wind. With immense effort, he began to drag the bright orange tarp across the snow, attempting to spread it out, to make it visible from above. His muscles screamed in protest, each movement an agonizing torment. He fell several times, landing face first in the snow, but he clawed his way back up, driven by a raw, unyielding will to live. He pictured rescue planes, distant eyes in the awe, sky searching. He needed to be seen. He needed to be found. He spent hours, possibly a full day, he couldn't be sure, meticulously arranging the tarp, trying to create a clear, visible signal. He used rocks, chunks of ice, and even his own body weight to hold it down against the relentless wind. The cold bit deeper, the exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him, but he pushed through, fueled by a desperation so profound it felt like a new kind of energy. He finished, collapsing onto the snow beside his makeshift beacon, shivering uncontrollably, his body on the verge of complete shutdown. He lay there, staring up at the swirling white sky, his breath coming in ragged gasps, praying for a miracle. He had done all he could. The rest was up to fate. He didn't know how long he lay there, drifting in and out of consciousness, caught between the brutal reality of the blizzard and the tempting warmth of unconsciousness. He felt the cold seeping into his bones, the numbness, spreading the insidious lull of surrender. He thought of his family one last time, a tear freezing on his cheek. This is it, he thought. I tried dot, and then a sound, faint at first, almost imperceptible against the howl of the wind, but growing steadily louder. A rhythmic thumping, a whirring sound. It couldn't be. His mind, clouded by hypothermia, tried to dismiss it as another hallucination, but the sound grew stronger, closer. It was distinct. It was mechanical. It was a helicopter. He forced his eyes open, his vision blurry, straining to see through the swirling snow. And then, through a momentary break in the whiteout, he saw it. A dark silhouette against the gray sky, growing larger, closer. A helicopter. It was circling low, its powerful blades whipping the snow into a frenzy. It was real. It wasn't a hallucination. He tried to wave, but his arm was too heavy, too numb. He tried to shout, but his voice was a raw, useless croak. But he didn't need to. The helicopter was descending slowly, carefully, directly towards him. Towards the bright, orange beacon he had so desperately laid out. They had seen him. They had found him. Tears streamed down his face, hot against the cold of his skin. Not tears of sadness, but tears of overwhelming, profound relief, of disbelief, of pure, unadulterated hope. He had faced the impossible. He had pushed his body and mind to the absolute breaking point, and he had survived. The sheer weight of it all, the sudden release of all the desperate fight, almost overwhelmed him. He watched as figures descended from the helicopter, dressed in bright, protective gear, rushing towards him. He tried to speak, to thank them, but he could only manage a raw, guttural sob. He was safe. He was found. He was alive. Asterisk, they quickly wrapped him in thermal blankets, his body numb, his mind slowly regaining clarity. He heard their voices, calm and professional, asking his name, assessing his condition. He was hypothermic, frostbitten, severely dehydrated, but he was alive. He looked at their faces, these strangers, his guardian angels, who had literally descended from the sky to pull him back from the brink. He had fought a battle he thought he would lose, against an enemy that offered no mercy, in a world that had become a desolate white void, but he had won. He had survived. And that knowledge, raw and powerful, filled him with a profound gratitude, a renewed appreciation for every single breath. Alex's recovery was long and arduous, a new kind of battle fought in the sterile confines of a hospital room. He battled severe frostbite, the lingering effects of hypothermia, and the profound exhaustion that followed his ordeal. His fingers and toes were permanently scarred, a constant, tangible reminder of how close he had come to losing everything. But with each painful step in physical therapy, each regaining of strength, a new perspective began to form within him. The world, once a blur of ambitious goals, now felt incredibly vibrant, precious, and fragile. He was visited by his family, his mother, father, and sister, their faces etched with relief and overwhelming love. There were tears, hugs, and heartfelt apologies for the worry he had caused. He embraced them, truly embraced them, feeling a profound connection he had taken for granted before. He recounted his ordeal, his voice raw, honest, admitting his fear, his despair, and the raw will that had kept him alive. They listened, captivated, seeing not just a survivor, but a changed man, forged in the crucible of extreme adversity. During his recovery, Alex spent countless hours reflecting. He realized that his adventurous spirit, while powerful, had also made him reckless, overly self-reliant, blind to the inherent risks and the value of connection. He learned humility from the mountains, from the storm, from the terrifying reality of his own vulnerability. He learned that true strength wasn't about conquering nature, but about respecting it and about the profound power of human connection, even from afar. His journey had been about finding freedom, but he had found it in an unexpected way, not in the absence of limits, but in the profound liberation that comes from surviving and embracing life with new eyes. He reconnected with his old ranger, Contact, the one he had informed about his trek. He learned that the ranger, after the blizzard hit, had remembered his detailed itinerary and had been instrumental in coordinating the search and rescue efforts. He was, in a quiet way, another unseen angel, another thread in the tapestry of his survival. Alex also connected with the helicopter crew who had rescued him, expressing his profound gratitude to these brave individuals who risked their lives for strangers. His brush with death transformed his entire outlook. He no longer pursued extreme adventures solely for personal glory. His passion shifted. He used his unique experience to advocate for wilderness safety, for better emergency preparedness, for respecting the immense power of nature. He became a spokesperson for search and rescue organizations, sharing his raw account, educating aspiring adventurers about the dangers and the importance of responsible exploration. His story, once a tale of solitary ambition, became a powerful narrative of resilience, gratitude, and communal responsibility. He embraced a new kind of adventure, one rooted in connection and giving back. He started a foundation, the Unbroken Path, providing mentorship and resources for young individuals passionate about outdoor exploration, teaching them not just survival skills, but the profound value of humility, preparation, and knowing when to ask for help. He understood that true bravery wasn't about facing danger alone. It was about the courage to admit your vulnerability and to trust in the unwavering strength of human connection. His life, once about conquering peaks, was now about building bridges. Alex's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest lessons are learned not in triumph, but in the very crucible of survival. It shows us that even when pushed to the absolute edge, when the world strips you bare, the human spirit possesses an extraordinary capacity for resilience, for adaptation, and for finding profound purpose in the most unlikely of places. His journey, from a solitary adventurer facing a life-or-death struggle to a compassionate advocate for others, is a testament to the truth that every breath is a gift, every moment of connection a miracle, and every scar a powerful reminder of how strong you truly are. His tale is a beacon of hope for anyone facing an impossible challenge, for anyone who feels lost, cut off, or overwhelmed by forces beyond their control. It reminds us that survival is not just about physical endurance. It's about the unyielding will to live, the courage to seek help, and the profound transformation that occurs when you choose to embrace vulnerability and accept the grace of human kindness. Because when you fight for your survival, truly fight, you don't just reclaim your life. You inspire countless others to find their own strength, their own purpose, and their own unwavering spirit. So, the next time you face a challenge that seems insurmountable, or witness someone battling their own desperate circumstances, remember Alex. Remember his fight. Remember that the greatest victories are often forged in the deepest valleys of despair, and that your own spirit holds the power to conquer even the impossible. If Alex's incredible story of my fight for survival, a raw account, touched your heart, if it reignited a spark of resilience or reminded you of the profound power of the human spirit, please take a moment to like this video. Your likes help us share these powerful true stories of courage and triumph with more people who need to hear them. And if you're moved by true tales of the human spirit, extraordinary strength, and life's beautiful transformations, be sure to subscribe to Heartfelt Chronicles. We bring you inspiring stories every week that remind us that even the toughest fights can be won. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss another journey with us. What's a fight for survival you've experienced or witnessed that taught you profound lessons about life? Share your powerful experiences and thoughts in the comments below. Let's create a space for support and shared understanding. Thank you for watching. And remember, your spirit is far stronger than any obstacle you will ever face. See you in the next video.